There are now more people living in cities than those who do not. By 2030, 60% of the world's population will be city dwellers. In Asia Pacific, the migration of people from rural communities to cities is as pronounced as it is anywhere else on Earth. And that puts enormous pressure on civic leaders as they search for solutions to big infrastructure problems and the many social challenges that come with it. So getting it right means building a reputation that attracts creative thinkers and innovators, the very people who ultimately drive the social and economic development of a city.
The Engaging Cities report examines the reputations of 8 different cities across Asia Pacific and the steps in which civic leaders and brands can take to enhance those reputations and the reasons why it's increasingly important to do so. We interviewed a little more than 4,100 people. We spoke to 20 or so experts in a range of different fields. And what we did is mapped cities against a number of soft power attributes, everything from architecture through to design, retail, sports infrastructure, and so on. And what we saw when we did that was that really there were 5 key things that cities with strong reputations showed. The first was the importance of its own identity, not a national identity, the own city's identity. We saw too the significance of neighbourhoods in the way in which a city built and advanced its reputation. We saw the importance too of the creative classes and the way in which a city goes about attracting those. And 2 more things, we looked at citizen advocacy and the way in which people who are residents of that city advocated on behalf of it. And finally was the importance of what we called people power.
Cultivating a city identity that takes the best of a nation's attributes whilst giving itself sufficient latitude to create its own brand is difficult, and few cities have done it well. But the cities which have embraced the diversity of those who live there and in the process managed to create a culture that appears to have something for everyone.
We're living in a global city, a global village, so it is inevitable that you would have different types of people moving in, bringing with them, different cuisines, different lifestyles, different influences. And it is this fusion, right, of the native and the foreign, and in a way trying to then conjure a new culture.
I get asked about the city of Seoul, which I really consider my hometown now. It's not really in the context per se of, say, certain landmarks or certain skyscrapers or certain skylines. For me, I think what makes the city of Seoul so exciting right now is really that I think digital culture, youth culture, and pop culture are one and the same here. This sort of confluence, this convergence, this hyperconnectivity that the city has just all around 24/7, 365 is, I think, what gives the city of Seoul the heart and, no pun intended, the soul, the energy that everyone seems so excited about.
I think the food experience in Japan, it's so it's designed so holistically, meaning that everything from the space to your plate to the food on your plate, it kind of fits within a certain sense of kind of both aesthetics and purpose. I feel there's a great connection usually that you don't see in a lot of other places.
Whether it's food, design, or music festivals, cities that celebrate the nuances of their neighbourhoods bring another dimension to urban life. And that can make it seem a far more exciting and dynamic place to be. And yet, whilst more and more Asian cities are putting their marketing dollars behind very specific city attributes, it can be the least expected campaigns that capture the public imagination and put a neighbourhood on the top of the list of places to visit.
I think for all the millions of dollars that have been spent on creating and making tourism commercials, probably the biggest and probably the best commercial was something that totally wasn't planned, it totally wasn't produced by government organizations or government officials. It was probably the Psy Gangnam Style music video. All of a sudden, overnight, everyone around the world, all of a sudden knew, oh, there's Korea, oh, there's Seoul, and oh, there's this one district called Gangnam. And so as a result, a lot of people, for whatever reason, got very curious. And it's interesting, I mean, my office is in a neighborhood, Karosugil, where on any given weekend, Korean is actually not the most popular or most frequent language being spoken.
Cities are finding new ways to accommodate those who can help a place stay fresh, vibrant, and relevant. That means being open to new ideas as much as it does capping the cost of retail and workshop spaces as commercial property prices continue to rise.
I think cities that are creative are cities that tend to attract very different people, because that kind of multicultural and kind of multidisciplinary mix, I think, is what can really spark any kind of good design, good innovation, good conversation at a fundamental level. That I think of design very much as a conversation, and I think having different voices in the room is really what's going to make that conversation interesting or exceptionally interesting.
Artists are people who see things and they reflect things, and this story that they tell of our cities told through architecture.
A more competitive aviation sector and a wealthier population has made international travel far more accessible. That means a higher proportion of people are moving between cities and sharing their experiences both online and face-to-face every day.
I think what's interesting in this particular report is that the people that we spoke to, the residents and citizens of a particular place, they consistently showed a positive perception of the place in which they lived and worked. And that, we feel, is something that's somewhat untapped. We have a high volume of people travelling across the region and internationally, talking about their own city in a positive way. And there's something there that has yet really been properly utilised.
Big investments in infrastructure, major public events and marketing campaigns can be quickly undermined by a failure to deliver an engaging experience. And that experience is invariably delivered by people whose willingness to welcome and accommodate visitors and residents alike is essential.
One thing that also stands out is the fact that we are multiracial. We are a home for many races and we have a very cosmopolitan makeup. I know that has created some tension of late, but I think overall you can feel that you can come to Singapore and you can feel welcomed, and many people have a good time here simply because they don't feel like they're very different.
We all make up a landmark in Bangkok, you know. Our Thai people, we make up the street, the life on the street, and how people living on the street. You know, people get out from home, how they walk, or the children walk on the street. Those kind of things is different. It makes us different than those big cities.
Engaging cities attract talent, secure investment, and create an environment that fosters innovation and prosperity. Achieving that demands the careful management of reputation and city attributes. But those attributes can rarely be managed in isolation. A truly engaging city has many moving parts, and each contributes to an overall experience of a place when they are properly connected.
I think it's all about giving yourself time to be inspired by the everyday, as opposed to looking for that one kind of loud, spectacular moment of great design. So I think Japan has really mastered that kind of great invisible design that permeates everything you touch and you do when you're here.